I think we're early, actually. I thought I was starting it right for 9 a.m. It's still 8:59. So you're getting bonus 20 seconds,
bonus
folks.
minute.
Hey. Yeah. Oh, there it is. It was actually a bonus 5 seconds, I think. Anyway.
Okay. That's all you get.
JB, I didn't realize we had hit a huge threshold on our show this week.
Yeah.
I mean, you caught it. I did not. I'm too busy doing other stuff lately. But show 400 was our Crunch Time Week 3 episode. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I know. I put it on in the car. I had some errands to run, and then I looked down and I saw episode 400. I'm like, no way, that can't be right. As I thought too, we lost a couple of episodes over the last 16 years anyway, and we had our birthday on the 24th, which was 3 days ago. So, I mean, maybe it's 400 something, but hey, to see it officially on iTunes made it feel like it was kind of a cool thing, especially with our show's birthday week, our Sweet 16. It's kind of cool. Nice little milestones here happening in the Huddle.
Yeah, definitely a nice thing. And plenty of flambeing has occurred in those 400 episodes. Thanks to Rainbow's carving knife for this one. I do have the purple shirt on, I believe, underneath my Balsa Spot pullover. So thanks for that one, Rainbow's carving knife. But then the reason I think we do this show 400 times, well, maybe not the specific reason, but promoting the greatness of Division III, and you found this one on Twitter this week, and so let's take a quick look at this one as well.
We are so fired up, Ryan, to have you part of the Johns Hopkins football team. And so with that, through our recruiting process, and all these guys will know, we're recruiting all these student athletes. We want to make sure it's a two-way street, right? It's a two-way street. We give them all the materials, all the resources to make the best decision possible, all right? In choosing, Johns Hopkins University and this football team. That's what we've done for you. We've been a test run here for a few months. Now are you finally ready to make this thing official and be a part of the Johns Hopkins football team? Ready to go! Hey, thank you, everyone, and we're so happy to not have only you, but the whole Bianco family a part of the Johns Hopkins football family. Thank you. All right, absolutely. Let's have a great day. Let's do it. Thank you.
Whether or not you like Johns Hopkins, you got to love those types of situations and the teams going out into the community and beyond to make kids feel part of their team, especially those that can't be a part of a team in the conventional sense of football. But that's something special. We've seen a lot of teams do that throughout the country in Division III, and we truly appreciate that and salute the teams that do that. I know you're a softie for that stuff as well.
I am, for sure, especially for groups like Team Impact, Friends of Jacqueline. I'm wearing, which is now, I guess, a relic, this Birmingham Southern Nobody Fights Alone pediatric cancer fundraiser T-shirt from, I think, last season or 2 seasons ago. And so, yeah, all these things, these teams out in the community helping these young people that are going through some tough stuff, their families are going through some challenges along the way, and both financial, emotional, all the things. So I love it when I see programs like Hopkins or like Birmingham Southern and others that reach out to the community and bring them in as part of their program, and it's just a really touching thing to see. So that's a hashtag YD3 moment, and we'll keep highlighting those throughout the season as we find them.
Sounds good. Look. Got some good stuff, even though this is kind of a lighter week in some ways. Week 4, I guess this is when people really get ready for that conference stretch run type mentality at this point. And so that's why we see a little drop off in the schedule, but still some good action we're going to go over here. Coming up here, this is Season 17, our Week 4 preview show of In the Huddle. You didn't rock out nearly as much as normal there, buddy.
I'm feeling a little. I'm a little hot and sweaty after being outside cleaning up the mess. We had, some residual effects of Hurricane Helen. Nothing major here in Central Florida, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, branches down, pool's a mess. Parts of the fence are missing and blown into the neighbor's yard and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I'm a little less energetic this morning. I had the coffee kick in and. Hey, look at that, the Hartford Whalers. I think we're going to be talking about Hartford today. Well, we'll see. I was just there with my family, and sounds like maybe there could be other visits to Hartford coming up soon. We'll see.
Take us through Region 1 here as we begin to get ready here for our first guest coming up in a little bit here.
Yeah, so we have some interesting matchups in Region 1 this weekend, starting off with RPI versus Endicott. I mean, the Gulls have really basically moved themselves to the top of the class as far as probably being the best team in Region 1 at this point from a playoff participant perspective. They've had a strong track record. Coach McGonigal's done a great job there. And it's ironic, and I don't know if it's ironic or maybe just saying something, that I think RPI is kind of looked at as an underdog in this game. They're not ranked. Endicott's undefeated. They just beat Ithaca a couple of weeks ago, who's, had some, head-to-head battles with RPI in the Liberty League. So that's going to be an interesting one. We've got a Mariner Bowl with Merchant Marine against SUNY Maritime in Throggs Neck. We got MIT going to Newport to play Salve. MIT is quietly undefeated to start the year. Salve has struggled a little bit. They lost to Rochester last week. They need to bounce back. This is a NUMAC game, so it's important from that perspective. Susquehanna's taking on Western New England, who's looked stronger this year than they did last year. That could be interesting. We got some MAC action with Widener Kings. Amherst versus Tufts, which was supposed to be, I think, a night game, but got moved to the afternoon. And then Williams versus Trinity in my hometown of Hartford, Connecticut. Should be a good one at the Coop.
And at this point in time, I think it's worthy of announcing that for the first time in 17 seasons of In the Huddle, we are taking on the NESCAC. And I will be attending Williams at Trinity. We are friends with head coach Mark Raymond of Williams and assistant coach Lou Acquarillo of Trinity. And I reached out to Lou. I was like, how would you like some In the Huddle treatment for this game? And he's already got me a parking space somewhere. Probably somewhere in New Haven the parking space is, if I know Lou, because he'll want me to enjoy the Pepe's Pizza and Louis'
Just make
lunch,
sure that you're inside the gates of Trinity. Just want to make sure you're inside the gates in that part of Hartford.
Yeah, that's good point. Thanks for that reminder. But nonetheless, that is going to be one game, and also it's not on this sheet, but on the way back, I'll be a little late for it, I think, based on how start times are. 5 p.m. start. Fitchburg State at WestCon, also known as the WestCon Says Screw You to MASCAC Tour, because let's face it, they were being shown the door and going out to the landmark, and so the MASCAC's loss will be the landmark's gain, but they would love to take some hardware with them and never give it back, basically, to the MASCAC.
Yeah, right.
Well, we won't go further than that on all the shuffling going on around different locations. JB, take us through number 2, region number 2, that is, as we get ready for our guest.
Yeah, we've got a couple of interesting inter-conference games between the Landmark and Empire 8. We got Moravian taking on Morrisville State. Catholic is playing Alfred. University of New England from the CNE is going to take on Rochester in Western New York. For me, the biggest game of the weekend, though, Frank, is this Carnegie Mellon versus W&J game at 2 p.m. down in Washington, PA. Both teams score over 55 points per game. Carnegie Mellon only allows like 2.3 points per game, and the Presidents only allow about 9 points per game. Something's got to give here. Both offenses putting up like 400 or 500 yards plus. Defense is really stingy. It's going to be a great matchup. We'll talk about that a little more later. And then Union's going down to Jersey to take on the Red Hawks of Montclair State for a 5 o'clock kickoff. Can't hear you, buddy.
listen, I knew you couldn't. I just wanted, for show 401, I wanted to, be, like the other 400 shows, technical glitches all over the place. Having said that, we go back out to us here because we'll go to regions 3 through 6 later, but you highlighted a game as your game of the week, and I think your nationwide game of the week is what you were implying there, although there is another big game that's kind of discussed right there. But why don't you introduce folks to our 2 guests that we're having here on our show?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh, but they seem to recruit doubles here, and it's an interesting story because these guys grew up in Texas together. They're brothers, I think 1 year apart, and this is the first time in their careers, I think probably since high school, that they played on the same football team. One of the guys was on the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays last year, and he's doing a graduate season with the Tartans, and so now we've got double trouble in the secondary here. Jameson and Jackson Lajoie, welcome to In the Huddle. How you guys doing? How are things out in PA?
We're great. We really appreciate you guys having us, having a blast.
I really appreciate the mustache game. That's very solid work for you right there, bud. Nicely done.
Love it. I appreciate it. Many weeks went into this. So.
Well, the pride of Garland,
Texas. It takes Frank a long time to grow facial hair too.
Well, yeah, okay. 2 days I look like I'm a hobo. But anyway, the pride of Garland, Texas, as I was saying, I'll be flying down to the Dallas area actually probably late next month for Gay Bowl down in Austin. I'm going to stop in Dallas, and so I do know the area, and you guys went your separate ways for college originally. So Jameson, we'll start with you on this one. Tell us the pathway of how you end up at Carnegie Mellon. It sounds like probably the graduate transfer portal situation, but kind of tell us why you wanted to join Jackson there. And Jackson, if you want to chime in afterward, how does it feel to have brother on the team? I mean, is he stealing any of your thunder over there at Carnegie Mellon? Go ahead, Jameson.
Yeah, so obviously went and played 4 years at Johns Hopkins. Had a blast over there, a lot of love for those guys in that program. Once I graduated undergrad there, went to Notre Dame last year, got a master's there, thought my football career was over, but obviously still had kind of a burning passion to get back on the field, and was blessed to have an opportunity from Coach Larson to come here and join my brother and finish out my athletic career here as a Tartan.
Yeah, it's been like a blessing, like have him come here, and like especially for my senior year, have an opportunity for him to come back and us both play together. Believe it or not, we've actually never played together. This is our first year playing together, so us being together, especially corner safety here, it's really nice with that connection and just like that confidence that we have with each other being on the field together.
Yeah, and I think for people that are going to be tuning into the game on 2 o'clock on Saturday, corner and safety is going to be probably 2 of the most important positions on the field for the Tartans. I mean, this passing attack of the Presidents is pretty prolific. Now, they may not have played some of the toughest competition yet. I think you guys have also kind of run over who you played so far. So the offenses have both put up some gaudy numbers. But when you start to break down the film, you got this quarterback Pugh from W&J. He can really sling it. What do you guys expect to see on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, super excited to be able to play a great team like W&J. Like you said, a really respected offense throughout the country, and excited, especially at the DB position, to really go out there and have a game where we're going to be tested. Great quarterback, a lot of great receivers, and really excited to get going. So,
yeah, we're expecting a lot of passes, and we're looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, normally I take these moments around this part of the interview segment to be like, what did you learn from blank? And so let's take a look at what you've done so far in the field. Clearly offense is humming. Clearly defense has had some great games. I mean, what did you learn from that Geneva game, though? Because obviously something went wrong there that you let up 7 points, a touchdown in that game.
No shutout. No, guys.
Yeah, okay, maybe it doesn't work as well there, but maybe the right way to ask this question is you guys seem to be humming right now along as a defense and an offense for that matter. Yes, it's against teams that you're supposed to be in Teal, Geneva, and Bethany. How does that schedule, those first 3 games, get you geared up the right way? Jackson, I'll start with you on this one. For a team like W&J, do you feel like you guys are ready for this team after that kind of less than meaty schedule to start things here? And how do you make sure you don't have a letdown coming into this situation here?
Yeah, I think these first 3 games have been like a good kind of introduction for us to the season to really get started and really get going and get our feet under ourselves. And like you said, our first 3 games, they haven't been the most competitive. So based off that, we have to understand that W&J is a different team, and we're definitely going to be tested here. So we have to come to that and be ready for that.
Absolutely. And so since Frank's on mute, I guess I'll keep going here. So Jameson, you've played in some big games with Hopkins. You've been to the playoffs and all this. I mean, what can you kind of bring to the fold? I mean, obviously Carnegie Mellon has only lost 2 regular season games in the last 2 or 3 years, so you guys are used to winning. But what some of that big game experience can you bring? And maybe you've talked about with your brother going into this, almost a conference championship type of game.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great parts about joining a team and especially a defense like Carnegie Mellon's defense. We have a lot of leaders and a lot of guys who just love football on this side of the ball. So it's been really easy for me. I didn't really need to come in and be a super vocal leader and start yelling at kids and telling them how important this game is. They know the importance of this game, and we have another set of brothers, as you know, who are ready and locked and loaded to rock. So it's been great.
I've heard of those guys.
Easy transition for me to join a defense like this. So
we're trying to come for that number 1 brother spot.
we are.
We're coming for it.
Well, the Coreys will be fighting hard on that one. Don't you worry about that. And we hope they're doing well. Okay, Jackson, as you probably remember, I was at the Grove City game last year, and what a game that was. It was under the lights and everything else, and it was a good celebration for them. It kind of their official, they've turned the corner party when you get down to it, and you guys had to sit there and watch that kind of play out, especially toward the end of that and afterward. What was the taste in your mouth from that situation? What did you say to your brother afterward? Because I'm sure you guys were in communication after a situation like that. And is this the unfinished business year for Carnegie Mellon? Especially, obviously, we know what's going to happen down the line here. But the PAC is a very prideful conference with the quality of football and quality of institutions in there. I mean, is this unfinished business ultimately for this team after what you experienced last year, especially in that Grove City game?
Yeah, that game definitely left a bad taste in our mouths, especially me personally. That game I actually was injured, so I didn't get to play. So literally speaking, I was on the sidelines watching that happen. And just as a team, as a collective, we know we could have done more in that game. We know we could have prepared better, and obviously we didn't get the outcome that we wanted. And that led us to not making the playoffs. So yeah, based off that, we definitely have a chip on our shoulder right now, definitely have a bad taste in our mouth, and we're going to use that as a propellant to keep us going this season and be ready for W&J.
Jameson, what did you tell him after that game, and what have you said to the team about that situation last year now that you're with the team?
Yeah, obviously that's a heartbreaking loss. You come to camp working so hard to go reach the playoffs and hopefully the Stag Bowl. But that's how football goes. You got to attack every single week like it's a new week and try to go 1-0. We're super excited to go at W&J this week and hopefully go 1-0. So.
All right. And for people keeping score at home, Jackson's number 31, Jameson's number 28. So how many more days do we have to wait until we get one of those pictures with you and Coach Larson with practice 28?
I think practice 28 was actually yesterday, and he did his patented math equation. So I think I missed out.
The old this or this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got to hope for
Yep.
another math equation in there. But
Larson, what are you doing? I mean,
Coach.
look at the mustache. The mustache alone should have gotten him 28, practice 28. Jackson, maybe there's a way to integrate with you in number 3 to do a subtraction problem or something like that, or 28 plus 3, we could to 31. Maybe we could do that somehow. Larson,
there we go.
We're looking for this in 3 practices. We want to see this now. But
Come on, man.
listen, guys. There's one thing I did notice on his roster. If we count you guys as 2 here, there are 8 players from Texas on the Carnegie Mellon roster. 8 players that you somehow convinced to go from the Texas Heat to the Pittsburgh Snow there, or at least somebody. What is it about Carnegie Mellon?
We got all sorts of places.
Yep, exactly. What is it that convinces these players, besides a quality education, to go from Texas to Pittsburgh? What's going on there at Carnegie Mellon from what you guys can tell?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing is just the opportunity. Like, obviously, coming from Texas, like, it's far away. It's a big decision to make the choice to come to Pittsburgh and pursue Carnegie Mellon. But me personally, when I came in your freshman year, it was a little while ago compared to Jameson, but it was just the opportunity that I saw within the culture and within the team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I imagine that everyone in the Carnegie Mellon locker room is looking for one of these tickets to go back to Texas. And in the past, the Pac has kind of been, basically a one-bid conference. That could probably change this year with the 40, with the expanded playoff field. I'm guessing that there should be at least 2 teams from the Pac that make it into the playoffs. But ultimately, I imagine for you guys, and it would be probably a really big thrill for your families if somehow these kinds of tickets were available in January for you. And I think this team's got an interesting story going on here with this amazing offense and great defense. I can't wait to see how it plays out on the field. I mean, something's got to give in this game. All the statistics that you look at on the game notes are crazy. It's like 560 yards offense, 59 points per game. You guys are only allowing 2.3 points per game. Something's got to give. It should be a great game for the national stage to see. And I know there's some other game going on in Minnesota, but we love ourselves some Region 2 action here. So we wanted to pump you guys up, and we appreciate you all joining us today.
But before you go, we allow you guys as student guests, as student athlete guests, to give shout outs to any family friends. This could be funny. Family, friends, teammates, coaches, etc. Unfortunately, Jameson's older. I'm sure you've gotten that a few times in your life. And so he will go first here. And then you can back clean up, essentially, on anybody he forgets along the way here. So, guys, shout outs to anybody you'd like. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a cliche one. Shout out to little brother right here. It's been literally a dream come true to play football together, and absolute blessing to have our parents and siblings and anyone else in the family come to watch and support us. And I know he's grinded his butt off over the past 4 years to get to where he's at, and just super excited to be able to join him on his journey. May have stole your answer, I don't know. But
You did a little bit. Obviously, my brother. I want to shout out all my family back at home. I also want to talk about Coach Gibb, our defensive coordinator, and Coach KK, our defensive backs coach. They're great. They really set us up every week. And for me personally, they really saw my potential as a player and put trust in me to actually produce. And I really appreciated that. So.
Yeah, Jackson, for those that don't know, and I don't think I'm telling any secrets, the roster has you listed as 5'10", 160, and a lot of people might see that and be like, what the hell's he doing playing college football at any level with those dimensions? But you play well outside your dimensions, as they say, and for somebody to see that, to give you the chance, that's to their benefit because you are a great player. And kudos to those folks that have taken the chance on you along the way because they have definitely benefited from it. So, thanks guys for joining us. Best of luck tomorrow and in the rest of the season, and we'll see how it goes. Perhaps I'll be making a trip out to Pittsburgh or somewhere else to watch you guys play this season. Talk to you soon.
Love it. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Roll
you.
Tarts.
Awesome.
It's the Lajoie brothers, and they are indeed great guests.
I had to bite my tongue. Frank, because I was tempted to ask, whether or not their dad named them after Jameson and Jack Daniels, but it just didn't seem like the appropriate thing to say.
Oh no, that's not right.
But I'm just teasing. But what great guys, and it is interesting that, like you said, that there's 8, 9 guys from, and you look at their roster. We got California, you got Newport Beach, Glendora. Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Hold on.
Houston,
the irony,
Texas Memorial.
The irony here is, what roster does it remind you of out there?
Johns Hopkins, MIT.
And where did Jameson come from? Yeah, where did Jameson come from?
Exactly.
It's kind of interesting.
We should have asked him
goes
what
from one national.
He got his master's at Notre Dame, and he's getting a second master's at Carnegie Mellon. How smart is this guy, man? Jeez. He's going to make some big bucks.
Texas has a scholar.
Cleats.
Yeah, Garland is lucky to have him. I wonder if he's going back or if he's going elsewhere.
Notre
We'll find
Dame
out.
and Carnegie Mellon. Yeah, that's quite the triumvirate on the resume. Oof.
JB, we left off. We talked about Region 2 briefly, and actually, let's go back to Region 2 for half a second here before we go to Region 3. But you called out some games here. Union Montclair, honestly, is an interesting game the way it plays out this season.
Yeah.
Because Union obviously had a big letdown in that Springfield game. Montclair's had an interesting season, to say the least, too. So I'm curious to see how this plays out down in Jersey, although I can't get there in time. I would have loved to have gotten there for the game itself, but if I'm going to be in middle of Connecticut, it ain't happening. And also, again, I want to point out that UNE Rochester game. Rochester, if they win that game, goes 4-0 on this season. They have not won more than 5 games in quite some time. Last year was 5-5. So to start 4-0 gets them well on the track to get into 5, 6, 7 win territory this season, possibly. Is this team back? Is this Rochester team back finally here? And Chad Martinovich deserves credit if they are indeed there after all that team went through. And I don't think we're telling tales out of school here either in terms of some of this stuff from the Rochester days back when and the documentary stuff and whatnot. To be able to bring back the confidence and integrity in that program, it took a guy like Chad Martinovich to do that. Go ahead.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, because Chad is he's a proven leader. He did it at MIT. He got that team to from being sort of a 2-3 win program every season to a 10-0 playoff team. He can recruit nationally. He understands. Rochester has some very high academic standards as well from a mission standpoint. You have to be able to crack the books as well as crack your blocks if you're going to play for Coach Chad. And so it was one of those things where kind of the right guy at the right time. He's from upstate New York. I know it was kind of a homecoming for him in certain ways. I got to see him play when I was at Hobart, and we were on the team together for a brief time period. He was our quarterback, and so this guy is a true D3 football lifer, and has just done a fantastic job with the Yellow Jackets. And if they start off 4-0, they're putting the Liberty League on notice. It's like, hey guys, we're here for real, and it'll be great to see what happens. Region
3, Brevard, Maryville. That could be interesting if that game even gets off the ground, because what's going to happen with the storm is that it's going to go into Tennessee, into that zone, and just spin there as a depression. And so the wind and rain that will come from even a tropical depression for literally over 24 hours could cause a game like this, depending on exactly where the storm track is ultimately in the greater U.S. area. It could cancel this game. So for now, we will act like it's going to occur, but this could change, and it could force the game to something like even Sunday or Monday if necessary. So let's see what happens here. We'll keep you posted from what we see in this situation. Not a lot of action here. I'm actually looking forward to the Centenary ETBU game. I think ETBU is going to be exciting with the amount of passing yards we're going to see in this game. But I think Centenary is going to try to really shock the world on a game like this. So that's why I took a flyer here for Game of the Week, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in our predictions coming up. You have that Brevard Maryville game, as they say, and that'll be one to watch for sure. I'll let you take us through Region 4.
Yeah, so we have a couple of interesting matchups in Region 4. River Falls, I think, is the only WIAC team playing. That for some reason they're not part of this. I thought the whole conference had a bye, but clearly not. But they'll take on Mount St. Joseph, who was a playoff team from last year. They seem like they're a little bit down by comparison to 23. So the Falcons may fly high. Albion Shrine is just a great MIAA conference game every year, so that's something to keep an eye on. Wittenberg, fortunately, is back to playing football. They'll host Howard Payne. That's an interesting kind of cross-regional matchup there. Heidelberg John Carroll should be a good one too. The Blue Streaks just lost by 6 points to Mount Union. Heidelberg kind of struggled in their last game. Can they bounce back? Speaking of Mount Union, they're taking on an undefeated Baldwin Wallace. Are these Yellow Jackets for real, or will Mount Union kind of just race by them? And then another game that's almost is on the same level, I would say, as like the Carnegie Mellon, W&J, and then also St. John's and Bethel is this Hope versus Alma game. Is Hope for real? They have plowed through their competition, but their competition also I think I saw someone write that they've had a good schedule. Hope's opponents are 0-9. That's not a good schedule, okay? But they're still a good team that barely missed the playoffs last year. Alma's defense, we've noticed, has been not quite the same as 23, but they've had a tougher road to hoe to get to here. Can the Scots, kind of start their title defense with a big win over? Are they the captains? Is that what the Hope mascot is? I can't remember, but that'll be
Flying
that should
Dutchman,
be a good
isn't
one.
it?
The Dutchman, yeah, I think you're right. Another Dutchman kind of thing going on here.
Well, at least they didn't become the Flying Garnet Chargers. But anyway, last time Mount Union visited Baldwin.
Not the Chargers.
Yes. Last time Mount Union visited Baldwin Wallace, it was the last game of the season a couple years ago, and it was the, look who got it in the back of the end zone game on the Hail Mary from Braxton Plunk, and it may have saved the playoff hopes of Mount Union. Now, is this game going to live up to that hype? I don't know. Baldwin Wallace, when you look at this, versus Heidelberg last week, that was pretty shocking what happened in that. Or actually, it was ONU, but Baldwin Wallace has been holding their own, I should say. ONU. Excuse me. Yeah, but Baldwin Wallace has been holding their own this season, and this could be interesting for me to see after what happened versus John Carroll last week for Mount Union, what they are this season. They obviously have a quarterback in Boudry that it can run the ball. We saw that 50-yard, I think, or so touchdown run he had. He can throw the ball, but it's a question of the three phases of the game right now for Mount Union. Are they up to the normal level that we see? Is John Carroll that good? Is that what's happening after getting absolutely wiped out by Whitewater? I don't know. And this is one of those, we said it coming into the week behind the scenes, and we'll say it here now. We maybe even said in the last show, it is tough to create a line of this team should beat this team, should beat this team, should beat this team going on right now. And after seeing some of these results, I need a result like this to help solidify, is Mount Union who we think they are? What's John Carroll exactly in the whole scheme of things? That's what I'm curious to see play out here. And that Hope Alma game, we will definitely be talking a little bit more about that in our predictions coming up very soon. Okay, that's Region 4. So next up, Region 5, and a little bit poor in terms of selection here, but for as much as we called, the WestCon game the kind of screw you game to the MASCAC, here's the WashU screw you game to the CCIW, but they're not favored in this game, much like WestCon would be favored in theirs. Central versus Buena Vista, Nebraska Wesleyan versus Wartburg, and Wisconsin Lutheran versus Lakeland, but you and I both go for WashU North Central for clear reasons here. You got to assume North Central's favored by 30 in a game like this, but who knows? We play the games for a reason, right, JB?
Yeah, that's right. And, it's funny, even though most people wouldn't have Wisconsin Lutheran versus Lakeland on their radar, I remember, Frank, from I think it was like the spring season in 21, they put on a pretty amazing show. These two teams have some history, and they like to get into these crazy shootout games. So that might actually be a sneaky, under-the-radar, entertaining game to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I do remember that. Lakeland was one of our upper teams in our top 25 final standings from the spring season that year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then finally, Region 6, pretty quiet. It's the WEAC-UMAC bye week minus UWRF, we'll call it. But St. John's, Bethel, Gustavus, and Augsburg.
Part one, probably.
Yeah, but one thing we should... well, no, it didn't pop up, unfortunately, what I thought was going to. I'll get into it in a second. Go ahead, take folks through this, though.
Yeah, so the reason I kind of speak tongue-in-cheek about St. John's versus Bethel Part 1 is because a lot of times with the way the MIACs, two sort of sub-conference setups, these guys could play each other in Week 11 for the title and for the AQ. Will be interesting to see whether the Royals are at that same level. I mean, they did upset St. John's last year, which was a kind of a big surprise for a lot of people. And yeah, as at Johnny Football says, some people are saying that this is a huge game. I wonder who those guys are. They probably don't know anything. But yeah, that's going to be a really good one. That'll probably be one that will have a lot of national attention sort of west of Pittsburgh, I guess you could say, because these two teams have gone at it for years. It's a great conference rivalry, and it's probably not the last time we'll see this game. I'll be curious to see, if is it Cooper Drews? He was my offensive MVP for Week 3. With those 7 touchdowns, he's going to need all 7 and maybe more to hang around with Aaron Syverson, who's just probably one of the best QBs and maybe a Gagliardi front runner, just based on how he's been playing lately.
Severson.
Severson? Did I keep saying it wrong? God.
Yeah. The SCIAC games you have listed on the right side there are... The SCIAC games on the right there, you got a battle of attrition except for Cal Lutheran, I believe it is, going on in those games because the SCIAC did not fare very well in out-of-conference play. Now they have essentially 7 games against their own conference.
Round robin.
Well, it's quasi-round robin. They play everybody, I think, once, but then they play their divisional foes twice, and how they even arrive at a champion, don't even ask, or what they figure out how to get their divisional.
I'm going to predict. I'm going to put something in my model that says first round playoff exit. How about that?
Wow, that's brutal. That's brutal.
Yeah,
and
that was mean. Sorry.
Yeah. So before we jump into predictions here, and like we said, it's a late week, so we're not going to belabor the full hour that we normally would here. But let's look at the rest of the season for a second here, because we're either in conference play or on the precipice of conference play for a lot of teams here. So kind of let's talk about the out-of-conference games. Yeah, the out-of-conference part of our program is just about over for most conferences. What conferences stood out to you so far that you are going to kind of be watching a little bit more carefully now that we know that some conferences could get a couple of bids or maybe even 3 bids when it comes down to it? Who's been your conferences of surprise, positive surprise, and negative surprise for that matter so far this season, if you had to name 1 or 2 of each?
Well, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to our question from the last episode about the top 8 and who sticks around and who doesn't. And when you look at conferences like the WEAC, the ASC, the PAC, maybe the NJAC, now that we've got this resurgence from Salisbury, are they going to knock off Christopher Newport, or is someone like a Rowan going to make a run at it? I mean, the Centennial is still far from being figured out. So those are the conferences that sort of jump out to me, Frank. I mean, I guess you could say, and we're going to have to wait until the very end of the season, but that Whitworth-Linfield game for the Northwest Conference Championship will probably be, worth sticking around for. But for now, I would say, CCIW isn't really doing anything for me. I mean, it's basically, North Central will probably win all the rest of their games by 35 to 50 points. With all due respect to Wheaton, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to compete with the Cardinals this year. The WEAC seems open. I mean, if Mount Union beats Baldwin Wallace, which they probably will, that you can say that the OAC is wrapped up and that's done. St. John's looks like they're the team to beat in their conference. Really, the games I'm looking forward to the most are going to probably be like Carnegie, Mellon, Grove City, Hardin, Simmons, UMHB, Part 1 and Part 2. If the Crusaders win those games back to back or twice, whatever, that's going to tell me a lot. And then I think the ARC is a little bit down. I mean, Wartburg barely beating Central doesn't do much, and then DePaul seems like they're the class and they're in the NCAC. But maybe Wabash will give them a run for them. I don't think so. I think that there's only really a handful of conferences that the races are interesting. I mean, obviously, selfishly, I always love the Liberty League because, I'm a Hobart guy. I think that conference feels wide open. Ithaca seems a little down. RPI could win that league. Maybe Hobart could win that league. I don't know. I mean, it's who knows what will happen there. But I think from a national perspective, ASC, PAC, and maybe the WIAC are really the most interesting out there to me.
I think the MIAA is going to be interesting, especially based on what happens in a Hope Alma game on Saturday.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
fair.
game could help define if this is going to be a horse race or not in that conference. The CNE, former CCC, Endicott and Husson in Western New England all are at winning records as they continue out of conference play. So they've had a reasonably good season so far in that situation. Endicott still has to go down to Hardin Simmons next week in week 5 before they start their conference schedule. That'll be an interesting one to watch for sure. ECFC is all losing records. Empire 8, it's going to be who can beat Cortland. Brockport at 8-2, if they can remain there, or Utica for that matter, both could deserve a Pool C bid ultimately, so that'll be interesting to watch. The HCAC is just miserable after Mount St. Joseph. Mount St. Joseph playing UWRF, they're kind of the only hope right now for that conference to do anything, and we'll see if they're able to bounce back in that way. I mean, they are 2-1, but against what is the question? The Landmark, Susquehanna, looks like a very, very tough team after the way they played Cortland. So you got that. And Catholic's trying to stick around there as well, but overall, the cream of the crop is Susquehanna in that one. That's not changing. Liberty League, Rochester is the only undefeated team in the Liberty League right now. If I told you that was going to happen before the season started, you probably would have told me I was nuts. And then if I told you that Ithaca would be winless, maybe looking at their competition, you would have said it's possible. But the fact that Ithaca is 0-2 and Rochester's 3-0 is kind of interesting, but for who the quality of opponents were. Go ahead, you were about to say.
Well, I'm kind of like smacking myself upside the head yet again because I realize here I'm wearing this T-shirt and I should have said that the SAA race kind of got interesting because of what happened to Barry against DePaul. And now we have Trinity winning games, a little ugly, but their offense and defense is figuring things out under a new QB, new system kind of a thing. And so maybe that SAA race isn't quite as over as we thought, and that could be an
what about the MAC
going
race
down to the wire.
The MAC,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's true because
FDU Florham is undefeated. That's it in the MAC right now. FDU Florham. And they have a big game coming up this weekend, obviously. The four front runners play each other this week in the MAC, and that'll be one to watch for sure to see who the two front runners will be after this week. That Del Val's going to have to play catch-up to, but they do control their own destiny to a certain degree unless Stevenson somehow goes undefeated for the rest of the season. But then we'll have to go to all kinds of tiebreakers. Yep. The MASCAC, UMass Dartmouth looks like the cream of the crop, but WestCon is still there, as are a few others. MIAA, like I said, Adrian, Hope, Kalamazoo, Albion's still always there, Alma's there. That is a tough conference. Trine. When you add up the MIAA's performance so far, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 18 wins against 6 losses. and that includes, yes, the Northern Michigan game. Yeah. So the MIAA is looking like they could get at least one Pool C bid, perhaps two, if they go 9-1 and 8-2 underneath a 10-0 champ, or even a 9-1 champ if it's Alma. That keep your eye on that one, folks. That's not over yet in respect to how many they'll get in. The MIAC, we'll see how it plays out. The St. John's Bethel game will tell us a lot. Midwest Conference, Lake Forest with that win against Illinois College is in good shape, but Monmouth is still there, so we'll see. The NAC is the NAC. I mean, Aurora and Benedictine are going to be the schools to watch. DePaul and the NCAC and Wabash are the two top teams, with Ohio Wesleyan still kind of knocking there a little bit. So you got some interesting races across the board. The WEAC's going to obviously have carnage throughout, but will they have enough 8-2 and 9-1 teams to go and take two Pool C bids ultimately is what the burning question is there. Or are we going to see a 7-3 team have to hope for the best ultimately? OAC, we'll see how it plays out. Way too much to go there. And even the ODAC, we don't know where that one's going because it looks like Randolph-Macon is a different team this year. And so who's going to step up if it's not Randolph-Macon ultimately?
Maybe WNL. I don't know.
But the MIAA so far out of conference performance is actually, I wouldn't call it necessarily surprising as much as a good indicator of the strength that exists in that conference right now, and that could help them achieve as much notice as the WEAC at the end of the day. Because remember, the numbers don't look at the name of the conference. The numbers only look at the numbers of who you played. And the numbers of who they played, WNL and W&L's wins and losses, in this case, not Washington Lee's, but also strength of schedule overall. So we'll see how
one
it
of
plays
those
out.
6 losses was to number, whatever they are, 6 or... Yeah, River Falls is number 6 right now. Alma lost to them by only 8 points. I mean, that game seemed a little more lopsided, but they did come back to make it interesting. So that's another thing that'll get factored in. We'll see.
Want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
I probably should keep talking so that we're not spanked on Facebook for copyrighted music infractions. My bad. So here we go. As you know, I think, let's see, I started, you started, you start this time, basically. 10 minutes on the clock for 12 games, and away we go.
I'm even, and you're odd?
Well, that's for damn sure. Clock's already running here. RPI Endicott, go.
Yeah, I think the Gulls at home have proven to be pretty tough. They're ranked number 12 right now, and even though we saw RPI in person and they've got the requisite parts of this team to maybe knock off Endicott, I just feel like the Gulls are just a little bit above 24-17. I think it'll be a lower scoring game, but the Gulls prevail.
Yeah, Clayton Marengi has the offense humming still, and the defense is doing what they normally do over at Endicott under Coach McGonigal. So I'm going to say Endicott wins, yes, by the score of 27-17, and that noise you just heard in the background is Ralph Icernia celebrating that we both picked against him, and he's printing this off right now to put on the bulletin board. Coach, hope you're doing well, sir. Williams at Trinity, a game I'm attending, which means that I'm just putting a target on my back for one sideline for the rest of the day and fan base. But it is a visit to the NESCAC for the first time ever by us, and I'm going to pick Trinity to win as the home team. But Williams is definitely improving. You can tell that they are not going to be kind of that 2022-2023 version of Williams. They're going to be more like the 2021 version that won the thing. So I think Trinity, though, just has the class right now at home to win this thing. 21-20 in the Classic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I know Williams' new quarterback has turned some heads, and Coach Ray will have this team ready. But beating Trinity at the Coop is a tough thing to pull off. They've been one of the most consistent D3 programs. I mean, I know they play in their little NESCAC bubble, but the Bantams are always a 8-9 win team every year. I'll take Trinity. 31-24.
Staying in the NESCAC, a game that was originally scheduled for 6 p.m., and I was excited to go to it until I found out it's at 1 o'clock. That just never got fed through the Presto system. Amherst at Tufts. You start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about what's going on with the Mammoths, formerly known as the Lord Jeffs. I mean, they played Bates and Hamilton. Tufts has played Bowdoin and Wesleyan. I'm going to go with Tufts. I think they're a little more trial by fire, whatever you want to call it, battle ready. The Jumbos will win a squeaker, 21-17.
I'm going to pick the Lord Mammoth Jeffs of Amherst. I'm going to say by the final score of 30-21. Ultimately, I still think they are of the class of the NESCAC ultimately here. But we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if you're right. I'm not going to lie to you there. Union at Montclair.
4-5 last year, Frank.
Yeah, true. Listen, last year is last year. This is a new year, JB. A new year.
It's a new year.
Union at Montclair. I got to pick the homestand on this one. Tough place to play, Montclair down in Jersey. And so I'm going to give Montclair the edge here against a Union team that's still trying to find themselves right now, offensively and defensively, it feels like. Montclair wins at home 24-13.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean that way too. I think some of the growing pains with Union, they'll get back on track eventually. And Coach Strock, I have all the faith in the world, but it's going to be a tough first season. And it looks like the Red Hawks, they squeaked by Gettysburg. They've only played 2 games and it's going into week 4. They might be more well rested. I'll take the Hawks to win a close one at home, kind of like they did with Gettysburg, like a 28-24 type of game.
You go first on Carnegie Mellon at Washington Jefferson. Just for interesting statistical purposes here, I'm going to put this back on the screen. And we see they've given up 7 points total. They've averaged, in the 50-point range.
55
more than 50.
Or something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, Washington Jefferson scores against St. Vincent, Teal, and Waynesburg. They've scored 59, 58, and 55, gave up 6, 7, and 16. So this is very evenly matched when you look at the 3 games so far against what I would call somewhat equal competition. You go first, though.
Well, as much as I feel like, and I think W&J has like the 4th or something longest home winning streak going, that this will be a game where Carnegie Mellon's kind of experience in playoff type bigger games might help them. It's going to be a close call, though, and more of a defensive battle in spite of these offenses. I think the Tartans will hang on to win, but it'll be like a 21-17 slugfest.
I see a much higher scoring game, ultimately. So Carnegie Mellon, I'm going to give the edge to in that higher scoring game, 37-31 in favor of them. I go first on UNE at Rochester. Will they go 4-0 game? And I will say yes, they will at home. UNE is going to have a heck of a road trip to get down there, and maybe they can get a garbage plate on the way in or out to at least enjoy some of what Rochester offers, because I think Rochester's going to sting them real badly, 41-17.
Yeah, I like the Yellow Jackets at home, 35-17. Sounds good. 4-0.
Region 3, Centenary at East Texas Baptist. Our first visit to Centenary in our predictions section. Go ahead.
Yeah, so far the Gents are 1-2. They lost to Hendricks and TLU, but they got their first win against Austin. Let's see, we got a 2-0. Yeah, well, ETBU beat Hendricks by a lot, and Centenary lost to Hendricks by about 23 points. I'm just going to go based off of that, the law of syllogism, that ETBU will win this game, say 42-21.
Yeah, I'm with you on it, but I think it's actually a Centenary team's growing before our very eyes right now, and that means something out there. So I'm going to actually make this a closer game of 34-27 in favor of East Texas Baptist. Then the game that may not get played, we'll see Brevard at Maryville. Boy, this is tough because Brevard is really disappointed this season. Or actually, no, they have not. Brevard themselves.
No, they have not.
I'm thinking Belhaven here.
Belhaven
Excuse me
week.
for that.
Yeah, Belhaven has never been disappointing. Yes.
Well, but Brevard is 1-1. The Hampton-Sydney performance, 51-30, is an interesting score. That's for sure.
Not great.
Then you look at Maryville's loss. Maryville, if I'm doing it correctly here, 17-14 at center. Boy, I'm going to give the home team the edge here. They just seem to have a better portfolio of wins, and their loss was close against a good center team. So Maryville, I'm going to give the edge to 24-17.
Yeah, I think this is going to be payback for the 37-35 loss that Maryville suffered to Brevard last year on the road in North Carolina. And so they're a little more battle-tested, I think. They lost a close one to Center, who's a good team.
Can't use battle-tested on the show.
I know. I'll just say the Scots win a close one, higher scoring game, 37-31.
Running out of time here. Hope at Alma. Go.
I think Alma has played a better schedule. They beat these guys comfortably last year, but it'll be closer this year. Alma wins 35-28.
There's something to be said for consistency and momentum in a game like this. Hope has that. Alma has had a herky-jerky season because of their schedule. I'm going to give Hope the edge here for the upset. It was my pick on Quick Hits, as you might know by now. By final score, Hope wins 38-30 against Alma. Next up, Mount Union, Baldwin Wallace. I think Mount is still who we think they are. Maybe defensively they give up a couple more points than they would have normally in the game like this. So I'm going to give Mount the 37-24 edge against Baldwin Wallace.
Mount Union 45, Baldwin Wallace 24.
Damn. Wash U, North Central, go.
North Central wins 55-21.
Well, I'm going to give Wash U a little bit more credit than that overall defensively. I think North Central wins the game. 37-20 in that game. Finally, St. John's, Bethel. I've been riding St. John's. I think they're my number 4 team in the nation right now, either number 3 or number 4, depending on how I set it up now that I'm thinking about that. But either way, that's top 5 action right there for St. John's. Bethel, Cooper Drews seems like a good quarterback, but this will be a wake-up call, I think, to him and his team. St. John's wins this 34-25.
Yeah, I'll take the Johnnies on the road, 35-21. I think they'll score early and often and ride it out.
That's it.
All right.
Wow.
So only 12. Shorter week.
You know what's interesting? The other interesting thing is that there were no Friday games this week. There are Friday games coming up next week, and I think the week after that, 1 or 2. So, but we abandoned Friday night games during what is usually a good weather period anyway. So it's just Saturday, all Saturday. Okay. So normally at this point I say, how do you watch games this weekend, JB? Hit it.
Well, I think, you start off with the noon kickoffs, maybe RPI versus Endicott. That's a semi-ranked versus ranked, depending on if you're looking at receiving votes and all that kind of stuff. We do have that Leb-Val FDU Forum game. The MAC is shaping up to be interesting. You can keep an eye out for Frank's tweets with from the Coop at 1:30. Elsewhere, you got Catholic and Alfred at 1, UNE and Rochester at 1. The Carnegie Mellon W&J game kicks off at 2, as does St. John's and Bethel. That'll be a big time to kind of focus in on 2 of these big national games, but also Brevard, Maryville, if the weather allows. Hendricks Huntington could be good to check in at 2 o'clock. And then also you got Mount Union, Baldwin Wallace kicking off at 2. Same thing with Hope and Alma. You've got a couple of late games going on starting around 5 with the Union Montclair State game, and we've got Centenary ETBU at 7. And I believe we've got Wisconsin Lutheran Lakeland at 7 o'clock. And then you got the couple of red-eye games on the West Coast in the SCIAC at 10. And that's about it.
We said we weren't going the full hour. We went the full hour in the end. So here's what I'm going to say, folks. You enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there if you're in the storm, route basically, or where it's going to just sit for a little while. I hope it does not flood all of Tennessee out basically in the process. Hope that Brevard and Maryville can get their game in for that matter, and everybody else that's out there. Be safe. We'll see you. Look for us on X throughout the weekend. Look for us here again on Facebook and Twitter for a Crunch Time show on Tuesday and all that stuff. Great seeing everybody. JB, thanks as always, and we'll talk to you soon.